Presta versus Schrader valves. Maybe you're new to cycling, or maybe you just purchased a bike that has Presta valves on it and you're used to seeing Schrader valves on every other bike you've ever owned. Well, I'm going to tell you what the difference is and why you care. The reason you care is because if you're going to buy a replacement inner tube for your bike, you need to buy one that has the right valve on it. Also, if you want to pump up that tire, you're going to need a pump or an inflator that has the right kind of valve fitting on it. Not every pump is going to work on both types of valves, although there are some out there that will do that. The Schrader valve is by far the most universal and widely known and recognized type of valve. Car tires have this type of valve. A lot of bikes, probably most bikes, have the Schrader valve. So the benefit of that is if you have a flat tire, pretty much any pump that you might find, you go to a gas station or just borrow a pump from somebody, it's most likely going to fit your Schrader valve. Presta valves, on the other hand, are a much lesser known type of valve that are used primarily on higher end road bikes, mountain bikes, and especially bikes that have a narrow rim where there isn't as much room to drill a bigger hole big enough for the much larger Schrader valve. Presta valves also come in different lengths. This is a relatively long one, and that is because some of the rims are deeper on road bikes. When it comes to pumps that will inflate a Schrader or a Presta valve, there's a couple different types of pump heads that you're going to see. This particular pump head is designed to pump up a Schrader or a Presta valve. Either one will work. You just push it in there and lock it in place, and that will pump up either type of tire. You may also see this style of pump head. This one actually has a dedicated Schrader and Presta valve openings. Here we have a CO2 tire inflator. This has a valve that'll work for either Schrader or Presta. For Schrader, you would screw it on. For a Presta valve, you would simply press it on that way. Now, you will find pumps out there that will pump up either type of valve, but you're going to need an adapter to do it. This particular pump has a Schrader fitting on the end that would screw on to a Schrader valve, and if you wanted to do a Presta valve, you would actually have to first fit this adapter on there, and once that adapter is on there, it'll push right on and work that way. Just be careful that the pump you select to pump up your tire is going to fit the particular valve that you have. Okay, this is how a Presta valve works. The Presta valve has a little lock nut up on the top here. In order for any air or CO2 to flow in or out of this tube, this lock nut has to be loosened. Once it's loosened, then this threaded pin will move in and out. As long as there's pressure in the tube, it will remain closed. The pressure will push the pin up, which will close the valve, unless you press down on it. Then air can escape, and the lock nut just kind of keeps everything tight so you don't accidentally let any air out. That's how the Presta valve works. Here is your standard Schrader valve, which is much more common. Most people are pretty familiar with this valve. You need to press on the pin in the middle to let the air out, or to put air in. You need to have a pump head that has a pin in the middle so that when you lock it in place, that pin in the middle will push down on the valve and allow you to more easily inflate the tire. All right, let's talk about valve cores. So the core of a valve is simply the workings of the valve, which is down inside. This is really what makes the valve work. This is a Schrader valve core. It's got a spring in it so that when you press on that pin at the top, the bottom opens up and lets air flow. So that's what a Schrader core looks like. Most Schrader cores are replaceable. If for some reason the valve doesn't close or the valve gets damaged, you don't always need to replace the entire valve or the tube. You can just replace the core. And there's a core removal tool, which looks like this, which reaches down inside, grabs a hold of it, and you can unscrew it or screw it back in with this tool. A Presta valve core looks like this. Now, not all Presta valves have removable cores. Some do, some don't. I'll show you that in a moment. But the valve core for a Presta is a little simpler just because it doesn't have a spring. Basically, when this lock nut is loose, the valve core just kind of sits there. So if there's pressure in the tire or the tube, it'll close the valve just because air is trying to escape, and it closes the valve automatically. So when this lock nut is tightened, this valve is locked down. You can't accidentally let air out. So when this is loose, you have to press down to open the valve. A valve core tool and extra valve cores, these are Presta valve cores, are pretty inexpensive. I'll leave a link down below in the description. This tool, along with 8 valves and 8 valve caps for Presta, was under $10. You can tell the difference between a Presta valve with a removable core and one that does not have a removable core by simply looking at the top set of threads here. If there's a flat area on both sides, that's a removable core. That flat area allows the tool to grab onto the core to unscrew it and remove it. A Presta valve that does not have a removable core, the threads up top here will not have a flat side. This particular Presta valve, if this gets damaged, you just have to replace the tube completely. Alright, if you like this video, please hit like below. Please check out the description for links to all the products that were used in the video, and thanks for watching.